the normal indicators of who will win the presidency, none of that went towards Biden. It went mostly towards Trump, and he still lost. When you have all those indicators saying that something weird may have happened during this election, would you come out and still say that I lost?
If we don't stop China, there's going to be a bloodbath. And people have taken literally that there's going to be a bloodbath in the United States. They clipped it out of context and they made articles saying that he's inciting violence in the United States.
They said that if he wasn't reelected, that there will be a bloodbath. But right now, if it's Trump and Biden, then I put Trump at a B and Biden at a D. So I guess I got to go with those scores.
Man.
So 2024?
2024, it is election season. Upcoming 47th president?
Let's see, 45 was Trump and 46 is Biden. So yeah, it'll be the 47th, right? Does it change numbers if you're the incumbent and get two? Or does it go up if you by every...
That I don't know.
Every 4 years, or is it every change you become like the next number in president? I think it's every change, right? Because I'm pretty sure we had more than, maybe not.
I don't know.
Because 47 seems low, but then also America is also a very young country at the same time.
Well, America was founded in
1776.
So let's see, 2024, 1776, 24, 1780.
I mean, 250 years about.
Give or take.
Yeah.
And then let's say some of it 45 or 47 times 4. That sounds about right.
All right.
Well, no. I don't know.
47. But that's 200 years. So we're missing 50 somewhere. But
it could, maybe it doesn't count every term. It's only if there's a change.
I think that's probably what it is. Otherwise, yeah, that makes up for that.
We sound like typical ignorant Americans who doesn't know our own political system.
I mean, that's how most Americans are. So
yeah, well, hopefully this podcast will introduce the American political system to our.
Well, let's just see how much typical Americans know about U.S. politics, I guess, through us talking about it.
Yeah, they'll correct us in our comments.
Sure.
So.
Wait, have you voted before in presidential?
I have.
Okay.
I voted.
I've never voted. So.
I only voted twice. So I voted in the 2016 election, and I have voted for 2012 election. So I voted during Obama's second term, and then I voted during Trump versus Clinton election.
And do you mind if I ask who you voted for both times?
And I voted for Obama's second term re-election. For Trump and Clinton, I did not pick. I picked undecided.
Oh, okay.
I left them blank.
You didn't. Why didn't you choose? Or why didn't you vote?
I didn't really like Clinton.
Yeah.
But I didn't like Trump enough to vote for him either. But this is not the correct way of looking at it. I thought my vote didn't matter because California typically leans Democratic in terms of electoral college votes. Now, I should still vote.
Well, I mean, I can't say anything since I don't vote.
I should still vote, but I didn't.
Right.
So I try to do my civic duty now to be a good citizen and vote going forward. But I do vote on local issues and state issues since I believe that they have a more direct impact to our everyday lives than the federal does.
Right.
Because federal system, it takes a while. Bills have to be negotiated. And to really feel the effects, it takes time. You're not going to see the impact tomorrow or the day after. It ripples its way in society.
Yeah.
But for our listeners, we have 2024 election. We have two main candidates. Yes. On the Democratic side is Joe Biden.
Our current president,
who is running for re-election.
Yes.
And the Republican side is Donald Trump, who was the former president, who is now running for his second term. So they are essentially both running for their second term.
So what happened on the last time?
Well, it depends how far you want to go back, but just as a recap.
I mean, it's kind of it's not normal, right, for a president that lost his last election to be running again the next following time, right? I mean, or at least a president that was incumbent that lost, his re-election and then came back and tried to run again. I think Andrew Garfield's the only one that's done it before Trump, if I remember. Like, it's very rare that this happens.
It's rare because statistically, the incumbent president usually wins the re-election.
Right.
Usually.
And their age range is making it very difficult for them to rerun, but they're both doing it. How old are they?
So Trump is 77 years old. Biden is 81.
Yikes.
Now, they're clearly both in the senior citizen range. And Trump at 77 years old, he clearly has a lot of cases going on against him. So as a recap to our viewers, he has 2 state cases, 2 federal cases.
Okay.
The 2 state cases are one in New York, the Stormy Daniels hush payment case.
Okay.
This is where Trump paid hush money to a porn actress during the 2016-2017 election season because he was afraid or concerned that his image and reputation will be damaged by her revealing whatever was going on in their life.
Right. It's funny how that's probably the least of his worries today.
Well, for
damaging stories, at least.
For damaging stories, right? There's 34 charges against him in regards to that case.
Yeah.
Georgia indicted, and RICO case, it's ongoing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Election interference charges against him. There's 13 charges against him.
Jeez.
So there's 2 state charges or 2 state cases. Then we have 2 federal cases. The first one is the efforts to overturn 2020 elections, depending on how you want to look at that.
Jack Smith one, right?
Yeah. That one the trial started on March 4th this year. And the second one is the Mar-a-Lago documents case, which happened, it's going to be happening on May 20th of 2024. It has 40 charges.
Jeez.
So
all these charges before election season, huh? It's kind of...
Right, and that's the talk where you have all these charges that is coming up. You had all this time. Now, some of them, it happened during his end tail of his presidency. Yeah. We have the Mar-a-Lago, the efforts to overturn the election. Those charges happened near his end. So I could kind of see that. The New York, it was brought up before, but then they brought it up again. That one, it kind of feels like there is a vendetta against him. And then the most recent one is the New York versus Trump, where this one, the New York state claimed that Trump fraudulently overstated his business valuation to get certain loans and money from banks and lenders. And he essentially defrauded and falsified information.
That's what New York is claiming, right?
That's what New York is claiming.
Because the bank itself is claiming that they weren't defrauded.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So New York recently won the civil lawsuit with $454 million judgment against Trump. Jesus. Now, the appellate court gave Trump a slight win by saying, hey, you don't need to pay the full amount while you go through the appeal system.
Yeah.
However, you need to put a bail of $175 million.
Okay, that's
or bond, I should say. So if you win, you get refund minus whatever is actually due. Or if you lose, you need to pay up the $454 upfront.
Got it.
And so you have Trump, who is now, he is the Republican candidate.
Nominee, yeah.
He is a nominee. And his attention will be divided on 2 fronts. He has to be focused on the campaign.
Right.
Now he has to be focused on the legal woes. Because 5 cases against him, that's a lot. And he is racking up those legal bills.
He sure is. But I mean, so do you feel like these are legitimate cases against him, or do you think it's a little bit political in a sense?
I think New York civil case and Stormy Daniels is political.
Yeah.
In terms of the Mar-a-Lago, that one is a toss-up because
that one strikes me a little bit because didn't Biden also have documents that he had at his property?
Correct.
But then the only difference between him and Trump is that Trump I guess, refused to give back the documents at first when originally asked. And because he stonewalled a little bit, that's the legal issues they're going after him versus why they're not going after Biden, or?
So what the special counsel is saying is Trump had these documents.
Right.
Trump didn't want to return them. Trump obstructed. Trump made it difficult. And Trump essentially lied. And so they are using all of these as counts against him to say that he had no intention of ever returning these documents, and he had every intention of keeping them.
Yeah.
Versus the Biden situation, which we'll touch upon in a few minutes. The Robert Hur, the lead counsel or lead investigator, was saying that while Biden did intend to keep some documents, he also intended to return some of the other documents.
Right.
Meaning his intention wasn't to keep everything, but they couldn't prove beyond reasonable doubt he wanted to keep everything. Meaning he was unable to meet the levels needed to take him to court and indict him, while Trump was easier. So
is the illegal act having the documents, or is the illegal act not returning the documents? Because I thought the illegal act was just possessing them itself.
The illegal act, I believe, is, I think the letter of the law, I'm not too familiar, but I think if the spirit of the law is saying, fine, you kept it, maybe it was an accident, we'll take it as a good faith mistake.
Yeah.
But you need to make the active duty on your part to return those documents. But because Trump, he did instruct his aides to remove it, delete it, hide it, shred it. He was trying to instruct his team to do what they can to not give it back.
That's a claim I hear. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, we'll have to see when the trial comes out how truthful that is or not. But I mean, there's also another difference, right? So Trump was ex-president or former president when he took the documents, and then Biden was vice president when he took the documents.
Yes.
That's also another difference in legality, right? Of allowing, or what documents you're allowed to possess.
Essentially, why does one seem to have more favorable treatment than the other?
Right. Because I mean, even though Trump is the one that said that, or the claim is that I don't want to give back, or, let's, move the documents or stonewall, not give it back in time. He's definitely more in trouble today than Biden is. And that's the only reason is because Trump, the claim is that he tried to stonewall.
It can be political.
Biden, from what I'm hearing or from what I read, he wasn't allowed to have these in the first place because he was vice president. But he's not nearly as in trouble as Trump, which is kind of interesting to me when I look at it.
It's a double standard.
I mean, that's why to me it feels this one too.
It is hypocritical. And so, if we were to be fair and just, you would apply the law equally.
Yeah.
Right,
nobody's
in an ideal
law, right?
society.
That's what they say. Nobody's above the law, even the president. So
my issue is from 2016 to 2020 till now, everything has become so polarized that you can't help, but it seems every position one takes, it seems to be, it's a conspiracy against one another. Yeah. So if they do something for Biden or how they treat Biden, it's because they are against Trump. Or if you support Trump, it's because you're a conspiracy right nut. And so it's become so devolved in this conversation that nobody knows what the truth is because there's so much misinformation. But I don't disagree with what you're saying. There is clearly not equal treatment. And so you can argue, and I think it is rightfully arguable that, hey, maybe the Mar-a-Lago documents, he shouldn't have done what he did. Yeah. But to be treated to this degree, would a different candidate or a different president be treated if they were in his situation? And I could argue probably not.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, to me, ever since Trump became president in 2016, at least from what I was looking, and I wasn't very political before this, so I may be off on this take, but it seemed like that Trump was being targeted crazy by the entire political system in itself, not just from the Democrats, but just by the system itself, because I guess Trump was an outsider, quote unquote, right?
He was.
So coming into the system, and a guy that's never been a politician, I sort of felt that he was being pushed out kind of thing, or, making this a one-term like presidency. I mean, that's what it turned out to me, but I don't know. I don't know if that's, as much as what Trump, himself did its own thing, or, whether because he was an outsider that they want to send a message saying, if you're an outsider,
he was an outsider.
Get this treatment, so don't even try to run kind of thing.
He was an outsider. He didn't have any political friends. When you look at the political career of Clinton, Obama, Bush, they didn't just rise to the ranks of presidency. They were senators. They knew friends. They had allies. They had relationships.
Obama came out of nowhere, but he was a senator before that.
Barack Obama?
Yeah.
But I guess I'm saying he had relationships there.
No, yeah, they all had a political career before they became
exactly
a nominee for the president.
And so he was an outsider. He claimed to disrupt the system. He tried to, quote unquote, drain the swamp.
That was,
Yeah. And
did he increase the swamp?
Well, debatable.
Right.
And so in regards to your earlier question was how much of it is justified and how much of it is political? I would say that looking at it, I have three cases that are political. Now, the other two cases are related to the election interference. One state case from Georgia and the other case from the federal. Whether or not, that depends on your take on, did he commit election interference by trying to claim the election was fraud and have them not certify the official results?
Yeah, I think for that one, I mean, claiming the election was stolen in itself isn't a crime, because that happened in 2016. That happened in Bush versus Gore.
Yep,
was that
because of court.
2000?
Yep.
2016, when Hillary Clinton came out and said, the whole Russia collusion thing that happened after 2016 all the way to 2020. So it's not unheard of, that they have these kind of, talking points. But
I have no issue with him claiming things. My issue with him was him actively trying to not do the democratic system way, right? So the official way is you have the people or the candidates who get the results. They say, okay, you lost, you won. Then they go through the Senate, the House, they certify, they say, these are the official winners, and they put it in writing.
Yeah. So from my understanding, he tried to do everything legally. The sending the false senators, or however they claim that thing is, they're saying it's illegal because, they weren't certified, but it's up to the certification person, or the vice president at the time, which is Pence, to certify the electors, and it's up to his discretion. Or the argument is that he had this special hidden power to select the electors, right? Because there is an ambiguous, what happened during an election, and to give more time to, I guess, figure out what may have happened.
Yeah,
this was his power, quote unquote, to stall the process. So there was more time for, the court system to, flesh out all the details, instead of, certifying electors and, saying Joe Biden is the 2020.
I don't disagree with that statement at face value. It's when you add the contextual background to it that I have an issue with. If, let's say, they're going through the same situation and there's, I don't know, something happened with the storm, or that ruined the votes, or something interfered, something outside of the norm caused the counting to be unreliable.
Sure.
I can understand where Trump will say, hey, don't certify because let's get everything right first. Different. He came saying, stop the steal, the votes are fraudulent, the ballots are not true. He was making all these claims along with he didn't actively say it, but then he was encouraging people to go out to the Capitol to protest.
Yeah.
So when you add all of these backgrounds to it, it doesn't paint him in a brighter picture.
It doesn't paint him in the brighter picture, but legality wise, that's my contention. Is I don't think he did anything illegal.
Sure. The letter of the law he did not violate, but the spirit of the law is, I would not put him in the positive. That's a negative.
Right. But I'm just trying to say this is political.
Yeah.
This is political.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Because he didn't do anything illegal, is what it is. Spiritual, like Trump has always been an asshole from day one, right? So nothing will ever put him in the good light. But legality wise, should we be prosecuting him for this? That's my contention.
Well, we'll see what the court, how the juries and the court system rules.
Yeah,
we'll find out. My only comment to this, and we'll move on, is if he had just come out and said, I lost, I don't agree with the results, but I'm going to come back fighting harder, that's a win in my book. Rather than him trying to claim the election was fraudulent, rather than him trying to do everything that happened, I would have preferred if he just said, this results is what it is. I'm going to come back and win the second term for re-election. I think that would have won over the moderates. That would have won the undecided voters more.
So you're saying that Trump knew that he lost, and that he
I think
lied.
Deep down Trump knew he lost, but I think he wanted to portray himself as
that's just
a fighting man.
But that's opinion, right? None of us know whether he knew. We don't know. Right.
I think personal opinion.
Right.
Full disclosure. Yeah.
So if you're in his shoes and you didn't know if you lost or won, but if you feel like you were cheated just because the bellwether states, all the normal indicators of who will win the presidency, none of that went towards Biden. It went mostly towards Trump, and he still lost.
Yep.
When you have all those indicators saying that something weird may have happened during this election, would you come out and still say that I lost, or would you?
No, I guess I would say, hey, I don't think I lost, but let's respect the democratic system. Let's respect the system that we all agree to. If we don't agree with it, we can fix it in the future upcoming elections. Like, let's say, no more mail-in ballots. Or if you want to vote, you need to have voter registered government issued ID. I could respect that. I'm not saying he had to admit that this is a valid and he did lose. I'm just saying,
because I think that might rub people the wrong way too. Like, oh, Trump is
he's a quitter. He's yellow belly,
pushover. Yeah. As soon as stuff like that.
Maybe. I mean, I can also look at it and be like, Trump is being the bigger person. And I can respect that.
No, yeah. I mean, definitely he did the way that I wouldn't handle this kind of, or none of us normal people would have handled the situation. Yeah. Trump is a big egomaniac, so he did it the way he did.
Yeah.
Thinking that he truly won.
Probably. I said this before. If Trump didn't act the way that he did, he would have my vote for the upcoming re-election. Now, I'm less reluctant to vote for him because of a myriad of reasons, but it didn't put a good taste in my mouth.
Okay.
Yeah. But we can discuss that a little bit near the end.
Sure. Moving
on to Joe Biden. He is 81 years old. He is literally my grandmother's age.
Is your grandmother pretty cognitive?
She's smarter than most other senior citizens. Right. Like, I don't know if it's
she ran for president.
No, I would not vote for her. No.
Still age is a factor.
Age is, I don't care what people say. Age does matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because at 81, you don't know if you're going to just die the next day.
Like, you would never
vote. You can't have your commander in chief just not wake up one day, right?
Well, you wouldn't vote. I would never vote an 81-year-old into office, and I would never vote an 18-year-old into office either. Sure. They're too young, and one is too damn old.
Right.
But right now, the most recent thing going on in Joe Biden's political career is
policies.
Just, I guess the latest thing is the biggest thing surrounding him is his son, Hunter Biden.
That's what the Republicans are attacking him right now. More so than any of his policies, but his son's involvement with Burisma and other foreign nations and
Ukraine
and his possible connections to Joe Biden.
Yep. So Hunter Biden did get certain tax evasion and gun charges. He has recently a second indictment against him where Hunter failed to pay federal taxes up to $1.4 million from 2016 to 2019. So those are the latest scandals surrounding Hunter Biden, but it extends into Joe Biden because now it raises, how much of Joe Biden influence was there in terms of Hunter's dealings with all these foreign entities.
Right.
So is Joe Biden compromised?
Besides the tax and gun charges, right? Like what else may have...
Exactly. It raises questions. So that's the current media talking points from maybe 4 or 5 months ago.
Right.
And the most recent one was Robert Hur's interview with Joe Biden regarding
his documents,
where he left it in his home, I believe.
Garage or something. Yeah.
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 So it was a 5-hour interview.
In multiple locations, if I remember correctly. Trump all had his at Mar-a-Lago, but Joe Biden had it like in 2 or 3 locations.
I know he had it at one of his house.
Yeah. Delaware. Or is it? Is he from Delaware? I forget, but
I want to say he's from Philadelphia, but I could be wrong on that. But Robert Hur did a 5-hour interview asking questions. And the big controversy that came out of it was, quote, Joe Biden is a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
Okay.
And so this got a lot of flack from the Democratic side because they're essentially saying, hey, you're painting him in a bad light because you know that election season is coming up and you're trying to damage him.
Well, I mean, do we want a president that has a poor memory to be president? I mean, if he's not being charged because he has poor memory, he didn't know any better. What does that mean for the bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
Like,
you're not wrong.
What are we going to do with the nuclear codes in his hands if he can't remember which way's left or right? So,
well, and this coming back to the earlier point you talked about in terms of charging him, the Republicans are giving Robert a hard time because they're saying, how come you're not charging him with keeping the classified documents?
Okay.
So
what was his answer?
I don't recall, but it was, God, he did like live testimony in front of them for like however many days.
Right.
But it was just a political show. Nothing really came out of it. So, I mean, that's the latest. That's our candidates. This is their latest status.
These are our best that we have in the States to offer.
Well, garbage in, garbage out. You know, I can't imagine any other candidates that would replace them. Maybe Robert what's his name? Robert DeSantis, right?
For
Ron DeSantis.
Ron DeSantis for the
Ron
Republicans.
DeSantis for the Republicans.
Yeah.
And Gavin Newsom for the Democrats.
Newsom.
That's only the only two people I can think of that would replace them.
Well, if Joe Biden doesn't run, will Kamala Harris run?
No. Nobody likes her.
But she's the VP.
Why don't
you like Kamala?
No, I don't dislike her. I just don't know anything about her. But I do know most people would not vote for her alone.
Yeah. I mean, the negative press that she gets is her how she's handling the southern border right now, because I think that's her only task is securing the southern border.
Honestly, I don't even know what that woman does. I really don't know.
She's the first female VP.
I mean, people say that like it means something. Like I don't like. Why should we care what their gender is?
Yeah, I mean, it should be the best of the position, or
there should be a merit-based system, not a diversity inclusion act or something.
I agree. So when Joe Biden chose her strictly on being a black female candidate, that was not the reasons that he should have chose, right? Because he literally came out and said that's why he's choosing her.
Well, he wanted the votes.
Right. So it's pandering. Just how Hillary Clinton came out and said, I keep hot sauce in my purse.
He said that?
She said that, yeah.
She said that?
When they asked Hillary Clinton what's something that you keep in your purse that some people might know about, she said hot sauce in a predominantly black community.
Is this her way of trying to be more personable?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's kind of cringy.
It was very cringy when she said it.
Do you know anybody who keeps hot sauce in their purse?
Hillary Clinton, apparently.
Yeah, that's cringy. No. Moving on. These people, man. So
I mean, there's a few more candidates like Robert F. Kennedy for the
Democrat.
He was going to run for the Democrat side, but then the Democrat Party didn't want him. Just how the Democrat Party didn't want Bernie. So
he's not going to win.
Of course not. So he's running independent. I forget which party, but the Kennedys, right?
He wants to be shot. That's what you're telling me.
Well, do you know that he was the only Democratic runner for the primaries to not get Secret Service? He was the only one that was denied from the Democratic side.
So anybody who runs are supposed to get Secret Service?
Protection, yeah.
What was their explanation?
I don't know what the explanation was.
So they want him to get shot?
That's what it sounds like,
okay.
Right? Like,
there's a consistency.
Don't go be
here.
driving around with a hood down car.
That Kennedy line is cursed. Every one of them got shot. JFK, Robert Kennedy.
Right.
Didn't some other Kennedys get shot too?
Not shot, but I think died of like drug overdoses and something like that. Like one of the Kennedys I heard like a few years ago died of a drug overdose. But yeah, it's a cursed name for sure.
Oh my God. So let's judge both Trump and Biden administration on how well they did. So for the viewers, we are judging them on these 5 factors.
Okay.
The first one is economic growth. Second one is unemployment rate. Third one is crime. Fourth one is promises kept. And the last one is perception.
Okay.
And so for Trump, his economic growth was from his beginning till end of 2019, because I want to exclude his COVID years of 2020 and 2021 because that's not fair. That was
his most interesting year that he had.
Yeah, but
and that's also what ruined his re-election, right? If COVID didn't happen, do you think Trump would?
Honestly, I thought he would have won if COVID should have made him won.
Made him win?
Because he came out with such strong. Let me take it back. He made decisions that I think would have put him in a more favorable light, such as the stimulus act, the warp act for the COVID vaccine.
Yeah,
he did everything that he could.
Right.
Considering that situation, sure, he was being Trump, but I thought he would have sealed the win with that kind of action.
Well, I thought his first approach towards COVID is what he got a lot of flack for, downplaying it a lot and trying to like not see it serious in the beginning. And a lot of people blame him for a lot of the deaths that happened in the United States because his initial response towards it was trying to downplay it a little bit.
I mean, sure, you can argue that, but I can also say that there was a lot of evolving news that we did not know.
Yeah, of course.
So he made the best decisions possible at the time.
Yeah.
And later on, when he had to, he did. But he also did come out to say that.
So you don't think COVID was a negative mark on
I thought
that year?
It would be more positive.
Right. Well, I mean, his positivity during his presidential run was his economy, right? The economy was booming during his 4 years, and COVID brought it down. And that, because his economy was doing so well, that alone would have.
Correct. So 2017 through the end of 2019, he averaged 2.5%, which is strong.
What is normal then? This is GDP growth, right?
Correct. Okay. GDP growth. So the US usually targets 2 to 3%, but I think under Obama, it
was like 2%.
Top of my head, it was like 2.2%.
Okay.
So Trump did better under Trump. The economy did do better under Trump relative to Obama, but there's a lot of factors that goes into it, right? Because Obama did come out of a great financial crisis, while I can argue that Trump inherited a good economy and built on top of that.
That's the talking point, yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't like to include the years of COVID of 2020 and 2021 because those are abnormal years. And we should...
If you do include that, do you know what the percentage is though for GDP growth?
I would not know.
Does it dip below Obama's 2.2?
It would probably be below.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to say because there's so many different ways of looking at the economy growth. So, but the talking point is 2.5%.
Okay.
You know, and unemployment did go down under his tenure to 3.5%, which is good. 3.5%, that's really good. I don't think people can say otherwise. This was pre-COVID, obviously. And some of the things he did was to combat COVID was signing the stimulus pack or the CARES Act.
Yeah.
And it was
the
largest,
like the biggest one, right?
Yep. $2.2 trillion, the largest one.
Didn't Trump run on bringing down the national debt?
Well, no president ever brings down the national debt.
No president. I thought
there's only one president, but it was before we were born.
Okay.
But we are built on debt.
Increasing debt.
Yep.
Okay.
So
spend.
Well, that's how we build our economy, unfortunately. And in terms of crime rate, Our wonderful editor will insert a chart somewhere here. Okay. But crime has been pretty steady. It improved in some measures. It didn't do so well on another, but overall, crime was pretty steady. Like it did not increase and it did not decrease significantly.
Under Trump's presidency, right?
Under Trump.
Okay.
And lastly, for promises kept, Trump kept 23 of his promises. 22% of his promises were compromised, meaning he had to make some, he had to give some away.
Right. He had to make concessions.
Exactly. And 53% of his promises was not kept.
That's a big number. And do we know what promises he did keep?
So he did keep the pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord. So that's number one.
He ran on that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He kept that one. He also promised to lower taxes, which he did with the 2017 tax cuts. He also promised to build a wall. I guess he kind of built a wall.
He didn't finish it though. Right?
Yeah, I guess you could say it's compromised. He ran a lot, but he also didn't get a lot. So he promised to, let's see, on top of my head, I forgot there was one promise he failed to keep.
Well, repealing the Obamacare.
Right. Yep.
I guess not building the wall or finishing building the wall. Having Mexico pay for it. I know he ran on a lot of infrastructure stuff that never materialized. I don't think he ever passed the infrastructure bill at all, right? I know he was talking big about infrastructure and building that up and building the big beautiful airports as he says and stuff like that.
That one never materialized.
Because the only thing that he did pass was just the CARES Act, right? Legislation wise.
He passed a lot. I mean, I forgot the exact list.
Yeah.
But he did pass a significant amount. It's just
I know he did a lot. Like you said, to get us out of the Paris Climate Accord, redoing the NAFTA to the U.S. CMA or whatever it's called.
Something like that. He renegotiated a lot of things. Some things he did well. Some things questionable. But I mean, overall, I think under Obama administration, he kept 35 to 40% of his promises.
Yeah.
But Obama also came out of a time where bipartisanship was a lot higher than it is today.
Yeah.
So,
well, I feel like Obama was able to get a lot more cooperation from the other side rather than Trump. Trump, I can't see him getting any cooperation from the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
That's why he can't get anything done, is because nobody wants to work with him, at least from the Democratic side, at least.
Well, anyone who works with him will be villainized.
Yeah.
So,
which is a shame. I mean, because you want your president or your commander in chief to succeed, right?
Well, of course, you want all of your presidents, because if they succeed, your country succeeds.
Correct.
But
we also don't want a weak country either. We don't want to get invaded. So.
And so currently the perception is that most Americans, they believe the economy did better under Trump than Biden's.
So when you say perception, are you saying that because
social view?
Right. So you're saying that that's not the case, or you just don't know if that's the case or not? If the economy,
the data suggests that under Biden's administration, the average growth is currently estimated to be 3%.
Yearly or
compounded, like average yearly. But 3%. It's still
what factors into a GDP growth then? Is it just economy?
On top of my head, it is
because
imports, exports.
I'm trying to see how
companies.
Biden has a higher percentage than Trump's economy. At least it's 2.5 before COVID.
2.5 before COVID.
Right.
Coming out of COVID, Biden did approximately 3. I think part of the reason why the economy is estimated to be higher is because, one, we have, it's not a surprise, record number of companies doing higher sales. Part of it is increasing price. Part of it is just more trade activity. The other part of it is the large amount of stimulus bill that was passed under Biden, such as the Infrastructure Act, the CHIP Act. We have the American Rescue Plan Act. It was a lot of bills that he signed that put a lot of money back into the economy, which at the same time...
Is that sustainable?
No, of course not.
Okay.
There's a saying for stimulus bills: whatever stimulus that you give today, you're borrowing from the future.
Yeah.
Because somewhere down the road, you need to pay it back. And sure, under Biden's administration, the estimated growth right now is significantly higher, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what the price is paid, not 5 or 6 years, but 7, 8, 9, 10 years.
Right.
And the other point I can add to this is we don't know how much of the growth can be attributed to Biden's success or Biden's action, and how much of it can be carry over from Trump's administration, such as did lowering the corporate tax from 35% to 20% help carry over that economy growth?
Right. Because Biden hasn't corrected that because it's in effect until 2025, right?
Yep. It's still in act in 2025.
But Biden says that he wants to increase that back up to the
28%.
28% original before Trump lowered it. And Trump says he wants to lower even more. Trump
initially wants to lower it even more, but I think he'll settle for just making it permanent.
Okay.
And so we have, under Biden administration, unemployment actually dipped slightly below 30.5%, but now it's currently sitting at 3.7%. Part of it is due to inflation, the Federal Reserve trying to combat it by raising interest rates. So we are kind of seeing a movement in the labor market, but it's still considered quote unquote sticky.
Okay.
And lastly, in two more things, crime, it's pretty similar. So it did not improve much from Trump administration, but it doesn't indicate that it got any worse overall.
Yeah, it looks like there's just a small increase during 2020 or the COVID years.
Yeah, when all the locked up and pent up energy.
Yep. And
so it doesn't indicate that too much was different, but in social perception, most Americans think that the economy and everything else is worse under Biden.
Now, why is that though?
Inflation is one part.
Right.
Because sure, your economy is doing well and your companies are doing well.
But you can't afford anything.
Exactly.
Right.
And you don't see it being translated down to your pocketbooks.
And gas prices. I mean, how can you say we're doing well when the gas price?
Well, I put gas at Costco the other day, and it was for 87, the unleaded 87 number, whatever it represents. I paid around $4.35 per gallon. Now, pre-COVID, I was paying close to $3.75, $3.50.
Yeah. Well, that's 4 years ago. So I mean, 4 years.
Yeah.
Without COVID, that kind of change is not unheard of, but
still,
I mean, they say gas is a global commodity. So if our gas prices are high, it's high everywhere else, right? In the world.
It really depends. Everyone does a little bit differently. Like Japan's market, the way that Japan does energy, and one reason that they've been able to keep it relatively low, they buy long dated commitments. And so this kind of helps hedge any fluctuations, while US is more, you let the market decide. You don't buy long dated commitments because unlike Japan, we can drill our own oil. But there's a lot of reasons that Americans think that we are far worse off. You have inflation, you have the migration crisis or the immigration crisis at the South.
Yep.
You also have people that essentially feels like crime is on the rise. Now, the official data says they're not, but we don't know how much of it is accurate. We don't know how much of it is unreported. There's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree. I mean, I agree that, just looking at one report, you're not going to get the whole picture. I mean, a lot of people get most of their, it's anecdotal, but living there, yourself, you feel the difference than how it's being reported. So, when the news is saying one thing, but you feeling it completely different, then you're going to disagree with, what you're reading.
Exactly.
About.
And personally, never once experienced crime where I live, right? I've never been broken. I've never been robbed. I've never been subject to violent or property crime. Knock on woods, right?
Right.
But when you say people say, well, look at what's happening here and there, I wonder how much of it is related to just doom scrolling. Like you get the algorithm to say clicks, oh, you like this, we'll send you more.
Right.
So to me, I understand where people are coming from, but my personal experience and official data indicates that crime is not as bad as people seem it to be. But
my only
TBD.
Data point that I want to say that crime, it's not crime per se, but I guess larceny and store robberies. I mean, didn't California itself pass a bill that anything over, or anything below like 800 or something is a misdemeanor. So they can't be, so cops won't come out and arrest them. So there are like organized crimes going on where people will be coming into like Rite Aids or, Albertsons with shopping carts, walking out with, the exact number that they know that they can't, be prosecuted for, and just.
No, you're right. And I believe
to me, that's crime, even though it's not, violent crime, but it's still criminal activity.
Well, I guess you can say, and this,
So I wonder if that's being, counted towards crime statistics or not.
It probably is, but when we look at statistics, it's the overall.
Right. And it's usually arresting records, right? So if they're not being arrested, they're not probably being counted towards,
I see what you're saying. I don't know what the methodology that the FBI used to count crime, meaning if you're not arrested, is it still counted or not? I don't know.
I bet you because they need a data point to be able to. If you're not being arrested, it's not being counted.
Oh,
I have a few. Get it. That's my.
So it might be underrepresented of what actual crime rate is.
Exactly, because they're not. They're just not arresting for
No, you make a good point, because in Portland, Oregon, the drug use and crime rates are getting worse, especially homelessness. That certain large retailers are just pulling out. I think it was Target that stopped pulling out, and it was REI as well.
Jeez.
And you had the same issue with In-N-Out in Northern California, where they were having issues, and they had said, we're going to close this location because we're not getting support from the city. The police is not able to support us, and our employees don't feel safe.
Yeah.
And so they had to shut down one of their NorCal operations.
Yeah.
So I can see that point.
Yeah. I just wonder how much more the pendulum will have to swing until they start
revising the data.
Yeah, because not revising data, but just not allowing this to happen. Because who's this helping? Like, who's helping? Who are you helping by allowing these people to steal this? A good amount of merchandise with no I guess
I think the original talking point to lowering it from a felony to misdemeanor was
overcrowding in the jails.
They felt that the bill the original law was purposely targeting African American communities. It was affecting or the marginalized communities or something.
Right.
So I think they wanted to make it quote unquote less racist. Now, I don't know how that exactly translates. I don't know the full interpretation. To me, you shouldn't commit a crime regardless.
If you're stealing, it doesn't matter what race you are.
I get it.
Just arrest everybody that's stealing. Like,
no, I get it.
What do you mean that it's it's targeting more black people? That just means a certain demographic is stealing more. That's all that means.
I get it. I don't exactly know what the logic was. Maybe I'm not explaining it correctly, but there's clearly
no, you're explaining correctly, because that is a talking point, but it just doesn't make sense, because it just means that they're committing more of that crime, whatever demographic you're talking about.
Well, it is clearly what's the word I'm looking for? One might say it's a woke agenda. So
we are definitely in 2024.
But how would you personally rate the Trump and Biden administration? Like, would you give it an A, a B, a C?
Oof.
So for our viewers, in American or United States education system, A is the highest, F is the lowest, and it goes A, B, C, D, and F.
On the surface level, I'll probably put both of them in the C category. Nothing that, makes me say that the worst president, and nothing that makes me say that they're the best president.
Why would you rank both of them C? Like, what makes you put Trump at C and not B or A or F,
What would put somebody in F? Taking us to like a world war, putting us into a physical war, destroying our economy.
That's a good question.
Right.
That is a very good question.
And then putting us in the A category will be like some kind of prosperity bringing, or, some kind of generational change will put you in the A category. And both of them need to put us in detrimental or in the, generational, prosperity.
My personal metric, I would look at the economy.
Abraham Lincoln is A tier, right? He freed the slaves. He ended the.
I wonder if he's only A because we look through the lens of history, versus if you lived during his time, he might be an F.
Could be, but we're also grading Trump and Biden after their presidency, right? So it is kind of looking through the history, not living through the time. I mean, we're doing it after Biden hasn't finished his presidency yet, but you get my point.
But to answer your question, I would look at the main thing I would look at is in a broad category. The first is economy. How well is the United States doing? How well is the average American doing? Are we able to pay rent? Is our cost of living affordable? Things of that nature. That's the first category.
Okay.
The second category would be how are we standing on foreign policies? Meaning, are we starting new wars? Are we creating more problems, or are we solving problems?
So on both of those metrics, I rank Biden lower than Trump.
And the third one, this is a personal one.
Okay.
How are we doing in terms of the U.S. debt? Are we adding more? Are we resolving it better?
Trump definitely added more than Biden, I want to say.
They both added a shit ton.
I know they both added, but I want to say Trump added more than Biden off the top of my head. Even though he's the one that campaigned on bringing down the national debt. I don't think Biden ever campaigned on that.
Let's see, 1.9. So if we were to look at all three acts that Biden did, he clearly put in more than Trump. But I may be missing some things that Trump passed that could put him higher.
Right.
But on top of my head, at surface level, just by me looking at my notes, I would say that Biden would rank worse in terms of adding to the debt.
Yeah.
So using my own metric, I would say that Trump is probably B, because I think the economy did. I like the tax cuts. Until
COVID, right? COVID's the only thing that messed up.
I wouldn't count COVID, because I think COVID is unfair to count to.
Of course, that's what I'm saying. So until COVID, his economy was doing great.
I think economy was doing fine. I like the tax cuts. I think foreign policy, he was doing okay. He said some outlandish things, but he tried to meet with North Korea. He did meet with North Korea. Mm-hmm. He did do certain things in the Middle East. He tried to smooth over certain relationships with China. Yeah. And in terms of the U.S. adding to the U.S. debt, he did not do so well. So I give him B. Biden is more of C.
What did Trump do that added to the debt so much?
I think the biggest one was just the CARES Act, which added 2.2.
But that was because of COVID. So if you're discounting COVID,
then he would still be B, because he didn't really tackle the U.S. debt. Yeah. Because his claim and his promise was he was gonna
going to get other countries to pay their fair share, right? That was going to bring down the national debt.
He tried, but it didn't happen.
Going against NATO, making because we're paying for the military budget for all these NATO countries. That's why they can afford all these social structures that we can't afford. So I mean, I get it. I get why he said that, but then it's also not feasible once, they've been living this way for the last 50, 60 years, and you're suddenly saying, no, you guys have to do what I say or else,
Well, he's rocking the boat.
He was. I mean, but do you agree somebody had to rock the boat?
No, it's necessary.
Right. Somebody had to call it China. I mean, I know a lot of presidents do call it China, but who actually...
It's how they call out China.
It's how they call it out.
He called it out through...
Who actually does
through
the
tweets.
Action. Or Little Rocket for Korea.
I miss his tweets. It was funny. I'm not saying that a president should tweet like him, but it was funny.
Yeah, but I'm not saying they shouldn't either. I mean, what... I get president.
Would you want your president to be more classy, or you don't care as long as they get results? I think they need both.
I want to be able to relate to the president.
Okay.
So when a president talks all politician-like, it just sounds fake to me. It may sound good. It may sound, eloquent and, somebody that, I should be able to trust, but it just doesn't sound truthful to me when they talk and politicians speak. Trump, whether he was, telling the truth or not, I was able to relate to him just because of the way he was talking. So that to me resonated better than me with any other president.
Yeah.
That I,
you felt that he was speaking more from the heart.
Right. From the heart, and actually trying to, do America first, or, think for do things for Americans, whether, he was doing it for Americans or not.
Right.
I don't know. Well, I haven't seen anything that tells me not, but like I said, his rhetoric is what resonated better with me than other presidents. or at least Biden and Obama.
I personally care about their actions. If their actions are good, then I say that's their quirks.
Yeah.
But I would still prefer my president to have some class because they are of the highest office.
Sure.
And they essentially represent us.
Yeah.
And I don't want, this is just my personal thing. I would want us to be represented in the highest class possible.
But you would want to be represented the president to be putting us first, or, to be, if the president's going to represent for us, he should put us first and foremost.
Oh, I meant just more in how, like, perception, right? Like the visual perception.
Right.
Visual perception.
Right.
So in terms of like their policies and how they represent us, I think it needs to be a balance, because I think that while I do want our presidents to put American citizens first, I realize that there are other plays that can help us down the road. So it may not benefit us now, but maybe 5 or 10 years down the road, sort of like investing for the future.
Right. Well, when you say, so America first, right? It's what I mean by is put your own country first, right? So should any other country put another country first before their own country?
No.
Right.
No.
So America first shouldn't be a controversial statement.
It should not.
Yeah, but it is. Coming from Trump.
How he says it is not helping.
Right. But I get it. But what he's saying is not something that you should disagree with. It's just how he's saying it.
It's how he's saying it.
I agree.
Every candidate's, and if you talk to every individual saying, hey, do you want to take care of your family first or a stranger on the street?
Sure.
Everyone will say their family.
Right.
It's the same thing what he's saying. But damn it, can't you say a little bit better?
Well, like I said,
get it. He's speaking from
he's
the
not
heart.
A politician. He's an outsider. And that's why they hated him, because he was speaking from the heart, I guess.
But so knowing that, how would you rank both Biden and Trump using your own personal metrics?
All right. Well, if we're going to go with those,
it doesn't have to be mine. It could be yours.
Resonating, or who I prefer that way, then I'll rank Trump a B and then Biden a D. Then at that point, that there's a much bigger gap between.
Yes. Yep. I can see that.
In my standards, and also Biden's just way too old. Like I just can't have a guy that's gonna not. I mean, not saying Trump is also gonna die. If he gets reelected, he's 77 as well, and he's more overweight than Biden. So who else? Who knows what other health issues he may have? Going into 78, 79. So it's not good. But it's not between the two, then I said Trump B. So I guess I'll go with Trump. Currently, I don't know what.
Both so damn
I mean,
old.
Whatever may happen from his trials upcoming and stuff like that, that may change my thought process on.
You'll change your position based on the news, like as the information flowed through.
I mean, my problem is news itself is very hard to take seriously today, just because I've seen how much that they lie by omission or bastardize the truth, or just not be truthful.
Yeah,
both left and the right.
Yeah.
So because of that, it's not what the news is saying is how I decide. It's my own
flow of information
of how I research things, but not because of what the news is telling me.
Is there anything that would make you rank Trump lower in terms of how well you can relate to him?
Yeah, if it actually comes out that he was an agent of Russia, or if he's an actual fascist, or if he's an actual Nazi, then he will rank way lower.
I don't think he's an agent of Russia.
No, none of that. I don't think none of that is.
I don't think that's true.
Is a fact. That's why I can't get on the wagon of hating him as much.
The Nazi is. I can kind of see where they get the ammo, because why do you have a Mein Kampf book? But at the same time, I can argue, why not?
Yeah.
Why is having a book a crime in and of itself? I don't think having one's, let's just call it racist book, a bad thing.
What does it say?
I think one should be.
What's the repeating of history quote that they say? If you don't learn from history will be
something
bound
like that.
to repeat itself. So yeah, like if you don't read what Hitler, his mindset was at the time or why he became the way he did, then history will repeat itself. So it shouldn't be that nobody should be reading his book, but how you take in that information and process it and kind of stuff. So having that book in itself, I agree, isn't
right.
It shouldn't make you a Nazi.
It's how you use it and the context surrounding it.
Right. So do you have any examples that he's done that would justify him being called a Nazi?
I don't have any examples. Yeah. I don't think he did anything outright, but I can definitely see what he says and his mannerisms that lead to the ammo of calling him a Nazi.
The biggest one I can think of is the Charlottesville riot. Remember the good people,
Proud Boys,
good people
where he told
on both
him
sides.
to stand down and stand by.
Right, but those are both taken out of context. So if you listen to his full speech on both, they're both taken out of context. Like good people on both sides context. He said that right after he said that Nazis should be condemned totally, but he wasn't talking about the Nazis on the right side. He was talking about the people that were there to protest the taking down of the statues. They're Confederate statues, but still, protesting that doesn't make you a Nazi. So
it doesn't. It's his character and his past sayings, his current sayings that cumulatively gives him that image.
Sure.
And so,
but because I know it's taken out of context, I'd never gone to that. I was never drawn into that camp of, okay, he's a Nazi. Yeah. So
I would not say that he is a fascist or a supporter of Nazism.
Yeah.
But I can see where they're coming from.
Sure.
I can see where they're coming from. I don't agree with it, but I get it. I can see that he gives them easy ammo. But there have been certain cases where they have definitely misrepresented what he said. The most recent example was he was talking about the auto industry in America. And he said that if we don't stop China, there's going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah.
And people have taken literally that there's going to be a bloodbath in the United States. They clipped it out of context and they made articles saying that he's inciting violence in the United States.
They said that if he wasn't reelected, that there would be a bloodbath.
Which is clearly false, because if you look at even 2 minutes of the whole clip, or even prior to that,
the auto industry,
and
China will,
exactly. And I don't see where, that's just blatant misrepresentation. That's of all the things to find ammo about, that's just straight up lying.
So if you take that example and apply that to all his past,
no, that's exactly what I'm saying. I can see, that's why I'm not saying he is a supporter of Nazism. That's why.
So I'm saying that egregious example that you're saying, I saw that in all the things before. That's why I was never like he's this or that, because all those examples is exactly how you saw this one was taken out of context.
It's, just one more comment before we move on to their economic policies. Sure. My issue is people just don't know how to do their own research.
Yeah.
And that's sad, because using that bloodbath example, you could have literally Googled it, found the exact clip, looked it up yourself, and made your own conclusion. Yep. But people just retweet, they just make comments, oh, how can you vote for this fascism? It's very disappointing that this is the level of stupidity we're at now. But
we're in the level of headline readers, right? People that read the headlines and don't read the article itself. There's just so many information out there nowadays, right? Like back in the day, before the internet age, you had 2 or 3 books or newspapers to read from, where you didn't have to all these.
Oh God, reading is a skill, David.
It is.
Reading is a skill.
I have trouble today, so. All right, economic policies.
Policies. So we have this. So these policies are what they are running on.
Okay.
So
this is their 2024 policies for it?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, Trump is running on. He's essentially running on America first and protectionism. Let's focus on building up domestic infrastructure, domestic production. He is essentially extending his 2016 policies till now.
That's what I remember him running on in 2016.
Yep.
Bringing all the jobs back to America.
Bring back all the jobs. He is not afraid to start a trade war, tariffs, import tax, you name it.
Border security, immigration limitations,
everything.
Travel bans from certain countries and stuff like that. And so, all this 2016 stuff.
And so for the economic policy specifically, he wants to impose a 60% tariffs on Chinese goods. Okay. Meaning, for those who don't know, let's say that normally you would bring something from China for $1,000, a 60% tax, $600. Now, one will say that that will raise the price down to the consumer. So if you are used to paying something for $20, you will now pay for, $28, give or take. Top of my head, my math is bad today. And so, but others are arguing that, well, this will incentivize manufacturers to come back to America where it will be cheaper. Jobs will be created here, domestic production will go up, and our supply chain will not be at risk because if we were to ever enter a war with China, they can't turn it off.
If or when?
Well, it depends on Taiwan.
Well, isn't Biden also trying to bring back American jobs back to the States, or competing or having that same sentiment as Trump with his CHIPS Act? I thought that's the whole thing with the CHIPS Act was to bring
Correct.
back.
So the CHIPS Act was around, a couple $100 billion, but it was to reduce reliance on Chinese supply chain, bring back the chips here, semis,
semiconductors,
exactly, for everything from fab processors. And it's encouraging people, if you build a plant in this country, we will give you tax breaks. We will give you incentives. And this will reduce our reliance on Chinese companies as well.
China having total control over chips is...
No, it has been a security risk that the Pentagon and others have cited many times because a lot of our rare earth minerals, they come from China.
Right. And if we're going to be going straight EV, doesn't that stranglehold into China's pocketbooks if they control the chips?
They can set the price.
Yeah.
If they really wanted to, they can. But right now, China is still, their economy is not doing as well, and they are still relying on us. Mm-hmm. So US is primarily what I would call a consumer / white collar service oriented economy. We don't really produce things as much as we did. So our economy is heavily reliant on people spending. Chinese economy is predominantly still production. Mm-hmm. If we stop spending, Chinese economy flutters or stumbles. So we are essentially reliant on each other. So Chinese government realizes that, well, we still need the US for now. And we realize we still need the Chinese now to produce certain goods. Yeah. Not all of them, but a good chunk of them.
So you're saying even though if we put the 60% tariff on China, they won't necessarily stop doing business with us because they won't,
but they will retaliate by raising tariffs on some other goods. So if we wanted to bring them goods, they'll raise.
Well, it seems like Trump's policy is to get rid of all tariffs on U.S. goods by putting tariffs on the countries that are putting tariffs on us. He
wants to use it as a negotiating point.
But that's kind of irony, isn't it? Because we're trying to tell them to take tariffs off of us by putting tariffs on them.
Well, he's threatening that, but also he's coming from the position of we have the leverage, we have the power, we should bully them.
Yeah, I mean, that is Trump.
And so I can understand where he's coming from. It doesn't create long-standing relationship, but he's not entirely wrong.
Right.
And the other, moving on to the other Trump policies that he wants to bring back, or let me clarify, he wants to make permanent is the 2017 tax cuts that he enacted. It's officially called 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Mm-hmm. This is where he lowered income tax. He reduced corporate rate tax from 35 to 21%. He also made some changes to standard deductions, the SALT tax limitations. He made it worse on that one, but most other things he made better.
Yeah. I mean, for me, not, being a single non-homeowner, it didn't affect me too much. So
no, it didn't.
Yeah.
And I think I got some more money. I mean, who doesn't want less taxes? So he also wants to remove $369 billion from the Inflation Reduction Act that's attributed to clean energy projects and EVs.
Okay, so he doesn't want to put money towards environmental?
He probably thinks it's a waste.
Probably.
Yeah, he probably thinks
he talks about the beautiful coal. So is he bringing back coal plants? I mean, I think
even if he brought incentives and tax cuts, it's not going to survive.
Yeah,
because coal is just not the economics behind that industry is just not strong.
Yeah, but I also don't think EV or solar or any of that kind of stuff is there today for us to make that switch to straight green energy.
To keep pushing it.
Yeah, so fossil fuel is needed until we can either go more nuclear or go more something.
I see.
Something to replace.
I see.
Fossil fuel. That's because our current infrastructure can't support the output of power that we need.
Well, my devil's advocate position is China is willing to put billions of dollars to support their EV, renewable energy, clean energy.
So because they are, we
should because
we can't allow them to have that stranglehold.
Exactly. Because I think China's 2030 or 2050 roadmap is they want to be the world leader in terms of renewable energy, solar panels, lithium batteries, and EVs because they want to dominate the country and the world.
Do you think Biden's putting us back into the Paris Climate Accord where China doesn't have to follow those rule sets, but we do? Will that push us even further behind China? Because they're allowed to still develop with fossil fuels while developing all this technology towards green energy, but we have to do it without using fossil fuel energy to begin with. Because we're considered a developed nation, while China, I don't know why they're not considered one, but India and China are considered not developed. So they're actually excluded from this Paris Climate Accord.
I think that
even though they're the biggest pollutants of the world today.
I don't know if it will push us behind. I really think that it's just a smoke show. It doesn't matter because it's optional, meaning it's an honor system. There's no actual mechanism to enforce or penalize or incentivize. Sure. So it's just a treaty or pledge.
Right. So if it's just a treaty or pledge or honor system, why do we have to be in it?
It's a show of faith. That's really it.
Well,
it just makes our image.
Yeah, but our show of faith will be to actually doing this stuff, like actually building green energy.
Politics is about image as much as it is about action.
It's all about your re-election and then becoming president.
Right. And it's also about how the U.S. will lead and things of that nature. Because you want us to be, the United States should be at the forefront rather than our adversary. So why not get in something like this when it doesn't cost us much?
Sure.
Now, of course, debatable, right? Since people will say, well, just by signing and entering this pledge, this incentivizes fossil fuel companies to raise more capital and expand their production plant, or it doesn't encourage coal companies to invest more into coal mining. Sure, I get that argument. But at the end of the day, the markets will prevail. If coal companies are failing, it's not that they need more tax breaks. It's just people are moving away from coal. People are still relying on fossil fuel, which is why ExxonMobil is the behemoth that it is today. And EV companies, they are nowhere near ready to take over the fossil fuel industry. It still needs time.
Well, I thought EV battery factories utilize fossil technology to create the batteries in themselves.
It depends on which company you're looking at. So if you're looking specifically at Tesla, they claim to be net carbon emissions, meaning they use everything from solar panels. They use renewable water system. So they claim to be completely not reliant on dirty energy.
Sure.
But what about Rivian or Lucid or all these other startups? I have no clue. They could still be dirty.
Yeah. Well, I can't fact check this, or from what I heard is that it actually pollutes more than saves currently the way that it's being created. So
I mean,
whether that's true or not, if that is true, then that's
I could see that. I could see that argument. It's a valid criticism. The only statement I can make to that is the up cost might be high, but maybe 20, 30 years down the road, it'll be offsetting it.
I get it. But time
will tell on that one. Right. We don't know. this is all hypothetical. Maybe in 20, 30 years, all those naysayers will be like, I fucking told you.
Right.
So we'll see on that one.
We'll see.
Now, Biden campaign, we touched on this. He wants to incorporate the tax cut to 28%, which is currently at 21%. He wants to raise taxes on fossil fuel industry. So Exxon, BP, Chevron, Valero, you name it.
Just decentivize them.
Essentially. And then he wants to raise long-term capital gains tax, qualified dividends. He wants to raise tax rates on all the ultra rich.
Okay.
Meaning anyone who makes $1 million or above, anyone who would a net worth above 100 million, they would be subject to more severe taxes. They would also be subject to unrealized capital gains tax. This is what Senator Warren, I believe, proposed. Okay. Or was it Nancy Pelosi?
It was probably Warren.
Yeah. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi wouldn't do that to herself.
I haven't heard Nancy Pelosi talk or make any kind of policy decisions in a long time.
So Senator Warren was the one who floated that idea.
Yeah.
And she was trying to target the ultra rich, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, where she claimed that these people never pay taxes because they never sell and their wealth keeps going up because their stock keeps going up. Mm-hmm. She claims that they bypass it. They get funds by using their stocks as collateral, getting a loan from a bank at a very favorable rate. And when it's time to pay, they just get a new loan, pay off the old loan. So they are continually
it's just a vicious cycle.
Yeah. And so she said that most Americans do not have access to it.
Or that kind of...
They should be taxed under uncapital gains. Now, that met a lot of criticism because, well, what if they have unrealized loss?
True.
So do you get your money back?
Right. Yeah, you don't know. So
because, I mean, my concern is like, well, what prevents the federal government from going from the ultra rich to the middle class to everybody? Mm-hmm. And a fun fact for those who don't know, income tax was originally started to target the ultra rich.
Really? Yep. Or what can you... So my understanding of how taxes became was because we got rid of tariffs. Tariffs is actually in place first. And that's actually what paid for a lot of our needs, is what we charge other countries.
I have to fact check. I forgot exactly which president made it official for all American citizens, regardless of income, to be subject to the income tax. But from my recollection, originally, the income tax was supposed to be for the ultra wealthy.
Okay.
Then few presidents later, they said, this is a good idea. We got a lot of money. Let's expand it.
Sure.
Eventually, someone made it official for everybody. And so it is a valid concern to have, like, if you open this, it's a slippery slope to everybody.
Well, I guess my thought process is, how do they determine who was an ultra rich back in the day?
High profile individuals.
You just said, you get to pay tax today.
No, it is. And this is why we cannot allow a small thing like this to pass, because once it passes,
slippery slope. Yeah.
It is so hard to repeal. Like, it's so goddamn hard. Mm-hmm. So I hate taxes. I mean,
taxation.
We need to pay for essential services, but...
So up the tariffs is what you're saying. Go back to the olden days.
It's...
So who's in the more favorable light with you then, with their plans for 2024? I mean, we now both seen 4 years from both.
Oh, one more thing to add.
Okay.
For Biden, a lot of the tariffs that Trump has in place, he actually kept a lot of it. Because he saw that, hey, it works.
It brings in some money.
So let's keep it in place.
It actually keeps China honest a little bit.
And so
he also built on top of Trump's wall too, if you didn't know.
I'm telling you, Trump is part. They're both side. They're both part of the same coin.
Right.
If I had to pick, I really don't like either one of them.
Right.
Because one of them are so extreme.
Well, let me ask a different question. Who would you pick or out of the last 8 years who said that they wanted to be president? Was there anybody from that you liked? From all the 2016 Republican primaries to all the 2020 Democrat primary candidates? To even the 2024 Republican primary
I don't even
candidates.
remember any of those candidates.
Well, you remember the 2016 where Trump was just like bad mouthing everyone, right? Like lying.
I didn't mind Andrew Yang. I thought Andrew Yang was unique, like the whole UBI concept.
Okay. I mean, from the 2021, Tulsi Gabbard was somebody that I would have maybe voted for from the Democratic
Remind
side.
me, who is she or her?
She was a Hawaiian person.
What was her policies?
She's just anti-interventionist, so she does anti-war.
Oh, okay.
Staying out of other countries, not meddling, not.
Do you know her economic policies?
That I don't know too much about.
Okay.
But I mean, when it was coming down to Trump or somebody from the Democratic side, I was looking at her mostly.
If I had to pick between Trump and Biden, if I really had to pick one, I'd probably pick Trump.
Yeah. Today. But in 2020, you would have picked Biden,
based on what we
right?
just discussed, I picked Trump.
But in 2020, you would have picked Biden, right? Because of how Trump...
I really don't remember... Well, if I was to go based off their policies...
I thought you said because of how he handled his whole election denial thing.
So in 2020, I did vote for Biden. I don't want to say I regret it, but looking back on it, it's like, it kind of left a sour taste.
You didn't want to vote for either at that point. But now,
goddamn,
now you get round two. Well, you get round two, so you're just not going to vote?
I really have to see how it goes. I really don't want to make a statement right now. I really don't want to make a statement.
I'll tell you what, if you vote this time, I'll vote this year too.
All right. I'll vote. Okay. I'm going to vote. I just don't know who I'll vote for.
I'll tell you who. Well, I guess me.
I have to wait and see.
For me, it's Trump, I guess, between the two. But if somebody else comes in that's not Trump, then I'll seriously consider it. But right now, if it's Trump and Biden, then I put Trump at a B and Biden at a D. So I guess I got to go with those scores.
Man. Yeah, I don't know.